scriptures tell us that Jesus appeared 3 times to the disciples after the day of his resurrection. Each time was obviously with a different purpose, because Jesus did everything with a purpose. And John tells us in John chapter 20, verse 24, that the first time Jesus appeared, one of the disciples named Thomas was not with the others when Jesus appeared. And they told him, "We've seen the Lord." But Thomas replied, "I won't believe it unless I see the nail wounds in his hands and put my fingers into them and place my hand into the wound into his side." That statement has earned Thomas the title Doubting Thomas. Maybe somebody has called you a doubting Thomas. It's a phrase that used to be pretty common. Some people still use it to describe somebody who's never sure, or who's uncertain, or who's wavering. A doubting Thomas. 8 days later, the disciples were together again, and this time Thomas was with them, and the doors were locked. But suddenly, as before, Jesus was standing among them, and he says, "Peace be with you." And then he said to Thomas, before he said anything else, "Put your fingers here. Look at my hands. Put your hand in the wound in my side. Don't be faithless any longer. Believe." "My Lord and my God," Thomas exclaimed. Then Jesus told him, "You believe because you've seen me. Blessed are those who believe without seeing me." Thomas the doubter, doubting Thomas. I think personally that Thomas gets a bad rap, and that this label, doubting Thomas, is not a fair label. You know who never calls him doubting Thomas? Jesus. In fact, none of the scriptures label him or give him the name doubting Thomas. It's those of us who have come years later and seen the life of Thomas, and we know the whole story. We look back on Thomas, and because he expressed a little bit of doubt, we label him the doubter, doubting Thomas. But Jesus never did. Jesus did not label him. Jesus did not chastise him. Jesus did not rebuke him. In fact, Jesus accommodated him. The next time they were together, Jesus allowed Thomas to do what Thomas needed to do for his doubts to be dashed, for his doubts to be now certainties. He allowed Thomas to put his fingers into the wounds in his hand and in his side. I think Jesus identified Thomas more with an earlier action in Thomas's life. Just a few months, maybe almost a year earlier, Jesus had performed a miracle of raising his friend Lazarus back from the dead, and the Pharisees could not stand it. They were on the warpath, and they were going to kill Jesus. And Jesus has this plan. Jesus wants to go to Jerusalem and do some ministry there. But all the disciples say, "Lord, the last time we were there, they tried to kill you. And when they try to kill you, they miss sometimes, and they get some of us. So we don't want to go and die." You know who the only person that wanted to go with Jesus was? Thomas. In fact, Thomas said, "I'll go with him. Let's go with him that we may die with him too." In other words, Thomas's faith at that point in his life was, if Jesus is going, I'm going. And if Jesus dies, well, then I'll die too. I don't find Thomas to be a doubter. I find Thomas to be a regular human being who sometimes needs a little more evidence to push their faith a little bit further, to push their belief a little bit further. So today I would say, if you have doubts about the resurrection, I think that's okay. If you have doubts about whether or not God will come through in your situation, I think that's normal. If you have doubts whether all this talk of faith is real, and you just watched this video today, or you came to church Sunday just kind of wondering, just checking out, is this even real? Being a doubter, having doubts, is part of the human experience. We all have doubts. We all have seasons of doubts. We all have moments when our faith goes from small to large. And Jesus never rebukes Thomas for this. I don't think Jesus rebukes you for this. In fact, I think Jesus is ready to do the opposite of rebuke you. I think he's ready to accommodate your doubt and give you what you need to push your doubt into belief, to let you have more evidence so that you can believe in Jesus. In fact, that's one of the prayers that I think we should pray. Earlier in the Gospels, the disciples are struggling with something Jesus said. Their faith is at an all-time low. And so they pray, they ask Jesus, Jesus, we want to believe, so help us with our unbelief. In other words, we're not sure if we believe this. We're struggling to believe it. We doubt this is true, but help us with our doubts. Help us with our belief. This is a prayer that Jesus is guaranteed to say yes to. Over and over, when a prayer like this goes up, the answer is always yes. Jesus, I'm doubting. Please help me with my doubts. Let's pray that prayer if we're doubting today and see what God says and see what God does. And let's be willing to push our faith one step further and one step higher. Doubting Thomas? I don't think so. Just Thomas. See you.